Good morning, everybody. Um, Today we are. I'm introducing you, or not introducing you, some of you to your favorite topic, Patina. Right? It's not very important, but you have made it look as though it's a big deal, and that is very important, right? Most especially with the way shoemaking is going, it's like something you have to learn, Abi. So take the most of it and make sure you learn one thing. So before we even do anything, Patina is all about coloring, if I can put it like that, in a layman's term. Abi, trying to color something, trying to change the color of something from what it is, from what it was to what it can be. And amazingly, it can be anything. And because it can be anything, there's really no rule for you to abide by, because it's one of it's a branch of art. Patina by itself is not actually shoemaking. So you get. We used to have, or we have people that do patina, but they are not actually shoemakers. But here in Nigeria, we tend to be like jack of all trades. We do everything. So you get. So it's a branch of art, and because it is art, you are the one that determine the kind of art you are creating. Abi, I'm sure most of you must have seen pictures, paintings that are not even fine, but the value they put on it, and depending on where you place the value. And I never go art gallery before. Sorry, I never go. Una dey see am for film, abi? They fit just put paint like this, jaga 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 jaga. They tell you say they will come put am for auction. Tell you say na $2 million. So that's just how art works. You must not you must not is not always perfect. The imperfection itself is the beauty of it. And whatever you call your art is what it is. Whatever you call your design is what it is, right? So, uh, but for our own setting, in the case of shoe, we literally want to take one shoe from one color, any color actually, except most likely except black, right? Because black is already in its darkest form, right? Uh, I think any other color other than black, change some features of the color, of the original color, to something that is desirable. Now we have the simple at the simple level or the complex level. The simple level for shoemaking, or for shoemakers, or for Nigeria shoemakers here, is just to take this kind of shoe. This is a brown color shoe, abi, if I'm seeing well. This is a brown color shoe. This is how the leather came. I think the leather is something like this. It is plain leather, and it can be any color. It can be white, it can be blue, whatever. The most common thing that we usually refer to as patina is to just dye this region here, abi. And if for any reason the shoe has body parts, you can now dye where one part is laying over another. Like the case of this shoe now, right? Uh, Dyeing this part, then this part is laying under this one, right? You can do the edge of this one. This one is like there's joint here. You can do around the joint, but really, it's usually more than that. It can be as much as drawing somebody on the shoe. It can be as much as drawing whatever on the shoe. It can be as much as just uh, doing a design. If you have ever done fine art, we used to have I think classes of art. I don't know what they call it again. You have a still life drawing, whatever that you can be playing with color, whatever. I don't know fine arts like that, right? But let's come to our case. So this is the procedure for a shoe like this to turn into something similar to this. There are a chain of process that you have to follow. There are a series of process that you have to follow. Number one is uh, selecting the color of the shoe you want to work with. Like in this case now, this is brown. It can be any color. Let's say it can be a cross leather, like all those leather that looks like white without color. Shey you get. And it can be blue. It can be whatever other than black, right? I think I've seen a case where a black shoe was bleached from black to uh, to not be black again, because it's actually dye. Na dye dey the shoe make am black, right? So you can actually remove the black, but for the case of black, it will be very hard, right? Most especially if the kind of dye is such that it penetrates through. There are some leather that you cut, and let's say black leather now that you cut, inside na actually white. Na just the surface. So that kind of leather you can be sure if you attempt to remove enough, na just surface e dey. You see this kind of leather, no matter how much you clean it, it will still be visible that it is brown. You cannot actually remove the brown. You can only make it lighter on the surface because the entire thing is brown. Okay, you get. And that is a function of the tanning process. Okay. Now you select the color of the shoe, or the yes, or the color of the shoe, and you start to dye, right? You can either start dyeing immediately if the color of the shoe is the background you want for the shoe, right? Uh, it will interest you to know that I can achieve this same thing on a white leather, right? I fit do this shoe now. I can do this shoe and it will be white color or cream color, and I'll still end up with this, even though this is actually a brown shoe. Do you know? Have you seen anything like that before? It can be white. So it means I have to, uh, if this is brown and I want my background to be brown, I leave it like that, right? Uh, if this is white and I want my background to be brown, it means I have to first of all paint everything brown first. Sure you get. Now, before you even paint, there are some leather that are receptive to dye. There are some leather that are not dye receptive very easily. What I mean is, there are some leather that you will dye directly like that, and merely brushing the shoe off, brushing it, or trying to polish, the dye go come out. There are some leather like that, and that is simply because of the way they made the leather. There are some leather that have, there are some um, wax wax coating on top from the factory when they finish the leather. Some leather have wax coating. Uh, Such wax coating will prevent absorption of dye. So let's say this is my shoe and I've been wearing it and I've been polishing it. If I want to dye it, or I want to do patina on it, like we always call it, right? I want to dye it. I will have to first remove the wax on it, because anything I'm putting on it is going to be staying on the uppermost layer of the shoe, right? In my own case, I've applied polish because I've been wearing the shoe. Once the polish, I mean the dye touches the surface of the leather, it is actually standing on the polish, and polish is wax, right? So that wax will prevent this shoe from absorbing the leather, I mean from absorbing the dye very well. So if such leather is what you have, or such shoe is what you have to first of all rip the shoe off the finish that is on top. Now, in the case of a shoe that have been worn, the polish is the finish. You know what I mean by finish, abi? Like the the finish now. Was on the shoe is the finish, right? Like this now, what you can see is the finished product, right? I can remove this topmost layer, it will become dull. The more you remove, the more receptive the leather will be to dye. So what you can use to remove the finish on the shoe, be it wax, usually it's wax, right? Is a You can use thinner. Thinner is what furniture people use to mix paint. I guess they use it to mix paint. Or uh, in our own case, you can use nail dissolver. I've forgotten the name of the compound. It's a chemical compound, but this is just nail dissolver, right? It's a more like an alcoholic class of compound. So it's going to when you apply it on the shoe, it's going to remove the finish that is on the shoe, right? So after that is when you now proceed to even start brushing. But in some cases, you don't even need to remove the finish because the leather by itself will also be receptive to dye. Like in this case now, if I should open this dye and pick and apply the dye here, for instance, you can be sure that this dye is most likely going to penetrate the leather, right? If it's not going to be able to penetrate the leather, you can easily notice that by cotton wool, by when you brush it off or when you clean it off, the dye is going to remove, right? When you brush off or when you um, clean, the dye is going to remove. Now, there's one thing I want to show you now, or that I've done now that I feel you probably notice or you did not notice. When I brushed it and I was cleaning, some portion of the dye actually came back to the brush. I mean, back to what I used, right? Meaning that the leather in itself was not able to absorb everything, and which is normal, okay? It is normal, but some leather will be able to absorb all the dye that you give them. They will just take it. It's more like sinking inside them, right? But this one now, even this is more like brushing the shoe. Now, Abby, can see it removing. Abby, the dye is simply scraping away. It's not inside the leather yet. So if this is the kind of leather you want to use and you do not take the effort to clean it first, to clean the surface first, by the time you are done, by the time you want to polish the shoe, all the dye will follow your brush. And imagine you think you have done a very good job, excellent job. You have told the customer, oh yeah, start coming, come and take your shoe, only for you to polish it, only for you to polish it, everything wipe off. It has happened before, right? I think there's a shoe, that one, that very one, right? So that is why uh, um, cleaning the leather can be important, right? But it's absolutely not necessary in all cases. Is that okay? So that is number one. So follow to continue with the procedure. You clean the leather. You you apply dye, right? And what I mean by applying dye is you do the design you want to do on the leather with your dye. I think the bulk of the work is actually this face, which is where you do the design of the design on the leather. Now, let's say you are done with this face and you have painted the shoe to whatever you want to paint it to be. The next thing to do is to cover up the dye that you put on the shoe. And a good way to cover up the dye is to apply shoe cream on the shoe. Uh, Shoe cream does two things. Number one, it enriches the leather. So the shoe cream by itself will enrich the leather. Now, number one nature of the dye is number one thing that you have to know is because of different types of dye. We are going to get to it. Uh, the type of dye that you use will eventually have a consequence on the leather you are working on. Most common type of dye is the alcohol-based dye. That is all those dye that can vaporize, that can vanish if you open them down, right? Those are the most common one that we use. But that is not to say there is no other dye. There is alcohol dye, there is oil-based dye, and there is water-based dye. What that really means is for alcohol dye, you'll be able to dilute it inside alcohol. Anything alcohol, you'll be able to dilute it. For oil-based dye, they will have their own substrate which is oily. This is an oil-based dye. If you can pass it around, it looks like oil. No matter how much you open this one, it's not going to dry out. It's not going to dry out. It's just going to, except you pour it away. That is when it's going to finish from inside this bottle. It's not going to dry out. See it on my hand. Abi? So this is one oil-based dye that you can have. Uh, then alcohol-based dye means you can dissolve in alcohol. Then water-based dye means you can dilute them in water. It's as simple as that. You can dilute them in water. And they are also, you can use them for shoe. There's not a new thing, just for you to buy it and use them. I think that would be the easiest one of them. But then it will take longer to dry. Even the oil base will also take longer to dry. Alcohol will take, once you apply it now, just leave it, the alcohol content will leave and the dye will remain. And that is why it is most commonly used, because you don't really want to waste time with what you're doing, right? So let's say then this one by itself is an alcohol substance. So cleaning your shoe with this is going to dry up the leather. Believe it or not, the leather by itself has some nutrients in it. So as you clean up, some of those nourishment or nutrients are actually leaving. Believe it or not, this thing is animal skin, right? Just like human skin, abi. So some level of nutrient used to be inside. Now, so the shoe cream will help you to nourish the leather back, and in some instances, in some cases, it will help you to seal the dye, like coating all the thing you have done, like this now. It will help you to uh, it will help you to seal everything you have done, right? So afterward is when you can now apply wax polish. Any wax polish of your choice is your choice, right? And if you now continue with the wax polish, that is when you can now say you want to do mirror shine on the shoe. Now, mirror shine is a very complicated, simple thing to do. It is very simple in terms of what you have to do, but it can be also complicated in terms of getting the result you want to get, right? Mirror shine will just be after you have applied your wax polish, and you can do it on any shoe, right? It doesn't have to be any patina or whatever. It has nothing to do with patina. It's just what we have used to glorify patina. It's just shoe shine, right? Is once you apply your wax polish, which is only is achievable with wax polish of your choice. If you buy Loot, if you buy Kiwi, if you buy Sapphire, if you buy pure pure lux, anyone that you buy can get it done. What you just have to do is you polish the shoe, you apply wax again. Meanwhile, mirror shine does not have to be on the entire shoe. Mirror shine simply means you finish the shoe and you can see yourself. This is shiny, but this is not actually mirror shine. Share you get. This is shine. You can see that this is shine. If I brush it off now, if I remove some dust on it, you can see that this is actually shiny. But you can see the reflection of light on it. But that doesn't make it mirror shine. When you look at it, you should see yourself inside it. That, that's that's actually mirror shine. But you can stop here and call it mirror shine. It's your own. Sure you get. But what I'm just telling you that when you say something is mirror shine, it means it's mirror. You know what mirror is? It can reflect whatever is before it. That's what mirror shine is. The way to achieve that is to just build up wax over it. Leather, because they are skin, they have pores. You know what pores are? Holes. So animal skin have pores, right? Just like human beings. Where hair come out from, right? It is worse in animals like cow because all their body is covered with hair. And whether you can see it or you cannot see it, that hole for the hair remains on the leather. That holes, the hole usually remain on the leather. So the concept of mirror shine is to just use wax to fill all those holes until you cannot see the hole again, until you cannot see the pores again. Then it will look the remaining wax that you now keep applying on it will now be forming a glass layer on top. And that is when you now say you have mirror shine, right? If you look at this leather, for example, you can see things like a very tiny, like you can't call it pores actually, but they are pores because you can't see that you can't see the holes by themselves, but you can see that it's like dots. But if you come to this part that is shiny, there's a level of wax on it, even though you can still see the pores, right? But the moment you cover the pores entirely, the shoe will shine to mirror shine, as we call it. That's just so it means you have to sit down and be applying wax and be applying wax over wax over wax over wax. So even if it is this entire shoe you want to do it on, your own is to just apply wax all over the shoe and let the shoe take the wax. Then mirror shine it will come your way, right? Okay, so I think that's the entire procedure. You clean the leather, you you dye the leather, you you now polish the leather whether you have shoe cream or not. You can skip the shoe cream and go directly to wax polish, right? There's no problem. Um, right. So the most important part of this class is where you actually deal with dye, right? I already told you the different type of dyes that we have, and the difference between this kind of dyes that we have here on the table and your 300 naira dye, is it still 300? Beer and okay, 500 naira. Beer and what's the other name? Okay, love die, dove die, this and that. Okay. The difference between those die and this one is in their opacity. What I mean by opacity is uh, how opaque they are. I've complicated it now. Once you apply it, once you dip your hand inside, once you dip your brush inside the dye and you apply it, you are getting the full color of the dye. Like you are getting the the best color the dye can give you. You are getting it once, right? But this kind of dye that you have here, they are usually made in such a way that you can apply them. Once you apply them, even though it is dark brown or light brown, whatever color it is, once you apply them, you are expected to not have that color directly. You will only be able to have that color after multiple coats, right? So for instance now, this is a dark brown written on it clearly. I did not change the content. It's dark brown that is written on it, right? Even I've not even removed the seal on top. If I soak this brush here and I do something like this, this is not dark brown to you. It's not dark brown, but this dye is dark brown, right? But once I apply again, see what I did here. Hmm? I applied, okay, let me just show you again. Sorry, I have experience of this dye. When I bought this dye, it poured away. So that's why I did not bust the head. So that if it pours, I fit quickly carry am. This dye is 30,000. Now I apply the first coat of this dye, it will dry up very fast, but it is not yet dark brown, right? When I apply the second coat, now I'm not starting from the top now. When I apply the second coat from here, it will dry out. It is still not dark brown, but one thing should be visible because of the nature of this dye. The part that has the second coat should be darker than the part that has the single coat. Do you get? That's the nature of the dye. Now, if I pick the dye again and I go, this is the first one, this is where the second one started from, and I go over the third layer. This is the third layer now. You can see that there's a gradient that is coming up. This is the darkest region, followed by here, followed by here. There's no magic, it's just what I'm doing with the brush, right? Then if I continue, this is the fourth layer. This will be darker than this, then this will be darker than this, then this will be darker than that. That is actually the beauty of this dye. Because the whole essence of the patina or what have you that you call it that you want to do is to be able to make one place very dark and build it out. What I mean by build it out is make one place very dark and make the end of it faint. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Make that is, if I'm to apply on this one now, my goal is to make this part very dark and let it faint out. Like that's like once you know that part, uh you I think half of the work is done. Half of the work is done. The only thing that will now remain is for you to now be able to create whatever you want to create, right? Because the most popular thing you want to do is to make, if you still do patina on the show now, the next thing that is coming to your head is to come to this place and start painting it, right? But the moment you are able to create a gradient, I call it gradient, that is building layer of dye, layer by layer, layer by layer, until you have your desired result. So the gradient for this one will be, let's say you want the entire thing to end here. The gradient for this one will be that here is very dark, followed by this region, less darker than here. Here is darker than here. Then until it finally fade to the normal color. Do you get?
Yes, sir.
Until it finally fades to the normal color. And if you are using this kind of dye, you are already at advantage because you already know that I want to have dark brown. I can simply just go and pull a layer around everything here. Then I come again, I pull a layer, I will not get to the top. I'll pull a layer, I will not get here. I'll pull a layer, then I'll continue on this side. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Are you sure? Ipa, you, it is that simple. But even though it is that simple, it is really complicated. Good. Now, this is a this dye is called is a product of Fairbanks. You can buy it. It's good for you very well. Now, this is another type of alcohol dye, right? And this is way cheaper than this. This is really actually cheaper than this one. This is another type. This and this are same product, but this is alcohol. This is oil based. They have water based too, so and they are also along the same range of product. Now, this kind of dye that we have access to, very like almost everywhere you can buy this dye now. Pastor has this dye, like the pastor in Benin, our pastor with the same material. He has this one, but the very smaller one. Let me go inside the second drawer and bring the smaller version of all this one. Small, small group, small, small group. You can buy it. Uh, the difference between this and this is that this one is a little more concentrated. What? The small small one, you can buy the small small one. The difference is this one is a little bit more concentrated than this. This one is also dark brown. This guy is dark brown, right? But if I put my brush inside it, let me use a different brush. Uh, let's say this one for instance now. If I put my brush inside it and I apply like this, now you will believe that this is dark brown. Abi, they're actually the same color. Uh, see the color of this one is dark brown, boldly written on it, right? This is also dark brown. If you transcribe this Chinese now, if you put your phone or Google Lens or you put Google Translate, put on this Chinese, it is dark brown, right? But this is darker than this. And even though this is darker than this is less darker than any dark brown you can buy with all those 300, 200. In fact, they don't even have good color for all those ones. If you buy brown color, it's going to be like red. Abi, it's going to be like red. So that is why this one is readily available. This one is useful. So what can you do to this one so that you'll be able to build a good gradient? You can actually dilute it. For the fact that you know that this is an alcohol based dye, it means you can use even ordinary spirit, methylated spirit, isopropyl, spirits from nurse and all those people will be able to dilute this for you. And what I mean by dilute is not just pouring everything inside. What you can do is take a portion of it. You know syringe, abi? Let's say you have a big syringe or a small syringe. You can take one syringe, look for one container, you pour it inside. then use another syringe to measure the alcohol you want to use, or in this case now spirit. Pour it inside the same container, you shake it together. When you apply it, because it is now more, but the dye is actually reducing. When you now apply it, it will not give you this color again. It will give you a lighter version of it. So much that when you now drop the dye again, it can go to this. Now, the concept of when you are painting it and it's becoming darker is, um imagine powder. You pour powder inside water, abi? Let's say it's white powder or black powder or whatever powder. If you collect this can, when you shake the entire thing, you collect this can and it is full with the solution. It is now called solution. Come here, and bring the thing. Okay. So when you collect the mixture of the powder inside water, let's say this can is filled with water, this can is filled with powder, or dye now, dye for clothes, dye now. So let's just use dye, let's not use powder, or let's the same thing. I think they will give you the same. So dye full here, powder one oh, and this is water. Those dye, they are actually water soluble. That's the meaning of water base. Water can dissolve them. Now, the result you will get when you pour this full dye inside this can for dark brown is different from what you will get when you pour half of this dye inside this full can. And it will also be different from when you pour quarter of this dye inside this full can. Abi? One will be very dark, one will be less dark, because the water is the same amount, the same quantity. Shey you are getting me now, abi? Now, the same thing when you dip your brush inside this dye, it is coming as the full dye, and you apply it. There is water here, I mean there is the solution or the alcohol and the dye itself. There is actually two portions, the dye and the alcohol. Let's say for this alcohol base now, the dye and the alcohol. Once you put it down, the alcohol will disappear because it will vanish. It can evaporate, right? Once you carry another dye from here and you paint it on it, the quantity of dye is increasing. Shey you get? The quantity of dye is actually increasing. So that's the concept of becoming dark and becoming darker. Do you get? So you can also dilute this one in the proper solution, in the proper solvents, alcohol. You can do 1:2 if you want the thickness to be half of what it was originally. Shey you get? Just take a syringe of, let's say, 5 ml, and you put your alcohol of 2.5 ml. Shey you get? And this thing is what you are going to test out by yourself. It is usually based on the work that you want to do at that very point in time that will determine how you are going to dilute the dye. But of course, you can just go ahead and buy this dye and look for another container, pour half of it, dilute the half of it. So you know that I have this full one, I have the diluted version of this one. Shey you get? Do you understand? So that is for dilution of dye. Now let's get to the part where we actually work. Let's get to the part where we actually do the work. Now, to be able to achieve what you want to be able to achieve the results you want to do, the results you want to achieve, the less quantity of dye you use, the better, right? Because uh the less what's it called now? So this is just me cleaning this one as I talk. The less amount of dye, the less mistake you are going to make, and the less correction you have to make, right? So what to do is actually when you collect the dye from the when you collect the dye from with your brush from the container of your dye, brush is like sponge. When it enters water, it will carry water until you squeeze it out. You don't That's not what you want to do. You want to drop the excess dye somewhere, then you have smaller amount of dye to work with. You have smaller amount of dye to work with. You usually don't want to soak the dye, except in a case where you are trying to create a background. If it's a background you are trying to create, let's say for instance now, I have a white shoe and I want to make it brown. Okay, what I'll just do is I'll dip my entire dye and be soaking the shoe so that everything will be even. Shey you get? But if I want to do a little bit of detail, I will not have to dip my dye inside the brush and go and put it like that, because the dye now or the sponge is going to pour everything on top of the leather. So what you want to do is to wipe off. Even though you have wiped off this dye from here, you can be sure that there's still dye here. um like this. Before I wipe, I've wiped this one. I've wiped the dye after making this, abi. So this is looking less darker than this. If you are very close enough to see it, this is looking less dark, meaning that I have less dye inside this brush to do what I want to do. So let's say I wipe again. I can come here. This is not as dark as this, meaning I still have dye here. I can come again and do this. The lesser the dye I have in this brush, the fainter it will become, or the less dark it will be here. Shey you get? And the less dark it is, the better for you. If this is actually what you want to do, you can finally continue, 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 continue. You will get back to this one. It is better to build small, 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 small and get here than just get here once, because you can overdo it. Are we following? So, a good way that I've seen or that I do is, let's say this is dye I want to use now. What I'll just do is shake the bottle. A little bit of dye will already be deposited here. I can use my brush to carry it. It will be different from putting my brush inside. Shey you get? So that's lesson one. You don't have to do it. You can just dip your brush inside and wipe it off. But if you are dipping your brush inside, the more dye will be going, because you will eventually wipe it off before you use it. So instead of dipping it inside, you can directly use from the cap, because your brush now will not be able to soak so much. Abi you don't understand? It will just be the tip that we have the dye. Now, dye will not finish from this brush very easily, meaning that you don't have to be coming back to your dye can almost every time. I've used this dye now, this brush here. I've not picked any more dye, but I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and I've been wiping it. I've been wiping it. This is a white cloth now. If I wipe it, you still see that there's dye there. Shey you get? And you know that the less dye that you have, the less color you are depositing. So this is what to do. This is the assignment that hinged the entire uh, dyeing process. Once you have a dye on your brush, this dye, after wiping it, should not land on any random part of your shoe, because we are dealing with shoe, right? It can be for bag or for anything, or for belt. It should land directly on the part where you want to be darkest. So for instance, I pick this region now. I want this part to be darkest. Because of the fact that we are building gradient, it is expected that you come back again to deposit some dye. Where you want to land again is that same spot. Then you go outside. That is, you go out. By yourself now, you can see that this center is darker than the edge, right? Let's say I'm coming for the third time now. I'm landing on the center back and I'm going outside again. Is it showing well enough? And I'm going outside again. You can see very clearly that if you are to categorize this into 3 layers, this center is the darkest. Then it gradually came out. Let's say I want to do it up to here. I only have to be going back and forth, going back and forth, going back and forth. Me going out, meaning I'm depositing more dye here. I'm bringing the dye outward. Are you getting? Yes. Or is that the too hard? You have not actually, you never even try and safe. Are you getting what I'm trying to do? It's a very simple logic. So I've not taken any other brush, any other dye, but I can assure you there's still dye inside this brush. And that's why you can have this bottle of dye and it will last you for a very long time if you not throw away. It will last you for a very long time, depending on how much you want to be painting. Do you get? So in essence, it is not actually expensive because it's not for one shoe. It can never be for one shoe. No, even even if it is for one shoe, there are shoes that you can spend 30K for. Then you will know how much you will sell it. Abi? What you spend for the shoe is uh, depends, what you spend on the shoe will dictate how much you will sell the shoe. Abi? So either ways you can never be at loss, run at loss, except if you want to run at loss by yourself. Shey you get? So this dye, I mean this brush, there's still dye on it, and I can come and do something around here like this. Now you can see very clearly that I have this part to be darkest, then I move outside. If I want this part to be darker now, if I try and try and this brush is not delivering it, that is the only time I'll go. But you can obviously see that upon applying more on it, upon using the same brush again, this place became darker. But just because I was just going round and round, the gradient stopped around here. This place became very faint. I can also spread it around. So that's the biggest exercise you can ever do, that you should learn how to do to be able to do anything. So once you're able to get this done, once you're able to do this, I can assure you that it's a matter of the rest, or the remaining thing will now be hinged on how much you can design, how much how artistic you can be. And you see, this one does not need any form of artist trait. It's just for you to just follow. When you pick your die, you wipe it off. When you wipe it off, put it on the parts where you want it to be darkest. Then you move outside, knowing fully well that the more the brush is staying on one point, the more dye is going to be deposited there. The more dye is going to be dropping there. The more dye is going to be dropping there. The more dye is going to be dropping there. The more dye is going to be dropping. The more dye. I can use this brush to wipe here, and you would not know that there's dye there. But the more I apply pressure, you start seeing the dye.
Because like when coming out,
So where?
which is when you apply pressure to here now, when coming out, do you still add pressure to it?
At this state of this brush now,
Eh,
if you don't apply pressure, you will not see any dye from it. But there's still dye here. So even if you want to go out, the same pressure. The thing is, the more you stay on one point, the more dye. Whether there's dye here, whether you have to apply pressure, whether you don't have to apply pressure. You see, when I was demonstrating this, I did not apply pressure. I just went to the dye, I put it there. There's nothing like pressure there. The principle is the same. The amount of dye that you have, the more you stay on one point, the darker that point will be, because the more dye is actually dropping there. But at this stage now, you barely will not be able to know that there's dye here if you don't apply pressure. See, there's still something that will come out of it, but you will not even see it like this. But because I'm just here, just the little dye that is here, I'm just here, I'm just trying to pour it there, it will start showing up. So you see the difference between this now and when I have this, and when the dye is like this, and when the brush still have this amount of dye, when the brush has this amount of dye, when the brush has this amount of dye. Which one do you think will be easier to create whatever you want to create? This region here, I'll be able to easily make one place dark and go outside, because the concept is, if I want to go from here, I only have to be shading and be trying to come outside and going back. Come out, go back, come out, go back, come out, go back, come out, go back. As I'm going out, I reach here, I come back. As I'm going out again, I reach here, I come back. I reach here, I come back. I reach here, I come back. It will faint outside. There's no magic there. Shey we get.
yes, yes, sir.
So um it's time to try, because you cannot even start painting any shoe except you know this. Shey you get. So this is assignment number one. It is when you are able to get this I can leave you and say you have graduated. Go home. You are done. Shey you get. So should be able to sacrifice this piece of leather. Who else? Thank you, sir. Who are- who else? Thank you, sir. So this dye is available. This dye is available. If you pour my dye, okay, una even dey work sef. This dye is available. See everything that I've demonstrated here, all the dyes will be able to do it, but one will be easier than other. You see this one will be very easy because you don't need pressure on this one. You only need to pick, wipe it off slightly and apply it there. You know that you can go and pick again, wipe it off, wipe it on the parts you want to be darkest, and be going and be going and be going. This one is more darker, shey you get. Then our dye, our brother dyes, 500, they are the darkest, shey you get.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any question before um this dark up to here is, if you know this shoe, there's one stain around this toe. So the reason why it is this dark, usually it will not be as dark as this reach here. But if I don't tell the client will not know. Say one stain, the time wey I start to dey use hardener for front stay, I put am, so by the time I dey last this one, e enter this leather, e come stain am for up. The stain no comot, e no fit comot. So dye don cover am. Na why the black reach up like this. You will not even know. That's why art is what you call it to be. I think you get my point now, abi? So at the end of the day, when I've been able to cover it, I had to also faint it out. Finish. Then this one will, this, all this region will never be a problem, because even as this brush is, just rub over it, it will become dark. You pick the dye again. If it is not enough, you rub over it, it will become dark. You don't want to make it completely black. That's the D, abi? This one here, you just, it's just using your brush to do whatever. And that is for brush. Now, if you don't want to use brush, this, because this one is completely brush, that is, and if you don't want to use brush, you can also use this. This is for one of my the guy that made that we did this one together. You know am abi, that guy wey dey come for evening. This is his own airbrush. You can put your dye inside and spray it. Do you get? But the thing with airbrush is you use more dye. Shey you get? You see the dye that I will put inside here that I want to use to create this shoe. I can only put my brush inside it and paint the entire shoe, and paint like 5 shoes. Shey you get? Because once you spray this one, it will get to a point the dye will finish. You turn another one put. Meanwhile, ordinary something that you put inside this cover might be enough to get the same result, because when you are spraying, it is coming out in nano whatever. Hair go dey carry wetin wan carry. Shey you get? So that's why traditionally hand is the best to draw. But if you can't use hand, that's why this one is there. You can, I can, this one will not, once I pour my dye inside, I want now zzz, 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 zzz. I wait for it to dry and go and polish it. It's not that life is not that hard. Shey you get? But the ideal way, and you cannot brush this, you cannot use a brush to, this one will be brush that will deliver it. And if you want to draw, if you have the advantage of knowing how to draw, very good for you. Shey you get, because you can actually draw anything here on the shoe. You can write name on it with die if you know how to do calligraphy. Is it calligraphy they call it? Writing name with different, like all those the way they write on certificate. Shey you get. You can write whatever, you can draw dog, you can say your dog just born now. You fit draw you fit draw all the puppy for the then you just gently, the way this dot now is looking as if it is under, like it's like a shadow under here. You can just do so that it will just look moderate and okay. Shey you get. So your practical is achieve these things. Oh yeah.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Hey,